Mouse यहाँ पे. Hello, students. Hello, students. This is Uttam Kumar Roy in the live session with all of you for the course Housing Policy and Planning. So I hope that you have enjoyed the video sessions and the reading materials. Even then, if you have any questions, you can write few questions and we can discuss that for the benefit of all of us. Okay. Let me start this with a question that which course you. Good afternoon, Vivek. Could you see the question, Vivek? Can you respond to the questions I have written? Or if you have any question from your side, that also you can write here. Vivek, if you have any query related to questions and the examination, we have a discussion forum online. From that forum, on that forum, you can put up your question. Our teaching assistants will give all the answers so that you get a clear idea. For the questions which Animesh you have asked about the RERA, I just mentioned that RERA is a comparatively very new act in India. The main objective of RERA is to bring a transparency and accountability in the delivery of the housing and the commercial real estates to the people. That is the main objective. Some of the salient provision of the RERA Act is that number one, every state government has to create a state level real estate regulation authority, and the job of that authority will be to regulate the real estate development, its planning and delivery. And to be specific, a developer has to maintain separate bank account for every project. They have to deposit a substantial amount, a percentage of the total project, to the regulation authority as a security money. And a developer has to disclose all the necessary information before they start the selling. For example, the the carpet area, the configuration of the building, and all the essential information in black and white, so that the people can understand what they are going to get in return to their money. Second, if a developer failed to deliver the housing unit, then the developer has to give a penalty. Sometimes the penalty, the regulation authority can impose a penalty, or they can take the penalty from the money deposited by the developer. So this is in brief the RERA. Now most of the state governments, and they have formed a RERA, state rules and regulation under the RERA Act. They also formed the RERA authority, and RERA authorities are there. Most of the cases you are finding that the projects are RERA compliant. That means they have taken the registration number and they have registered under RERA. I hope, Animesh, you got some idea. I would like to request you that you can visit to Government of India, Ministry of Housing and Poverty Alleviation, Housing and Urban Affairs website, and you can find the details of the RERA. In addition, if I get some more information, I will definitely share with all of you through the discussion forum. I find Prabha, you are also in the line. Can you introduce and tell your question, Prabha? Thanks, Animesh. Any other questions, Animesh? Don't hesitate. Please let me know the questions. Prabha, I find that you have written one very nice questions, that how housing policy relate with town planning. Let me try to give a very clear and precise answer to you. Prabha, in town planning, basically we try to regulate the development of the land and infrastructure in a very wide area. Sometimes the area is regional in nature, and sometimes these areas are cities in nature. I hope you have attended the courses on third and fourth week, where we had a detailed discussion on the regional planning and the town planning. Now, when we make the town planning at the city level and we make the development plan or the master plan, we indicate the future land use and the density, for example, the residential, commercial, institutional, etc., etc. But we don't mention that what type of housing will come to that particular land parcel. A housing policy is required to detail out all those details, like type of housing which will come to various zones of the city, which is not mentioned in a typical city plan. Second, the modalities of the housing, who will be delivering that housing, whether private or public or the joint venture, and the strategic actions, for example, that what will be your stand to take care of the informal housing, what will be your policy to invite the rental housing, to invite the cooperative housing, etc., etc. So housing policy in a city level or a regional level gives a very clear roadmap of the housing which is to be developed in future for that city or the region. Whereas when we make a housing policy for the state or a nation or a country, the policy is broad. It gives a broad guidelines which can be applicable after some contextualization at the state level, city level, or regional level. So that housing policy, right now we have national urban housing policy, rental housing policy. So this gives a broad guidelines of the housing policy, major focus area, the priorities, major incentives and major reforms which are linked with the housing policy, so that there is a environment and an enabling environment where the government and the private sector also can work. In comparison to that, when we make a strategic document for a city, the strategic document for a city gives very precise prescription of a housing development. It gives a precise prescription which leads to the action at the city level. But housing policy don't leads to the action directly, because housing policy gives a direction. So based on that housing policy and the direction, every state authority, city authority, they have to make a strategic document which is linked with the city plan, and then only they are able to take the actions parcel by parcel, step by step, the housing typology by typology, and like that. I hope that you got some idea. Now, the city plans are done by the city development authorities, sometimes the municipal corporations. On the other hand, the housing policy is done at the state level or the national level. At the city level, housing strategy document is done again by the city authority or the regional development authority. I hope, Prabha, you got some idea. If you have further question, you can ask me. Animesh, I see that you have put up another question, or rather it's a comment that I liked most the affordable housing delivery challenges. As I understand that you tried to mean from the lectures or the videos which under the course, but I would like to tell you that the whatever we could discuss in the course, it was general to give the fundamental concepts of the affordable housing. But if you are interested to study that subject in a very detailed manner, you should study various literatures, the research articles, and the documents for the affordable housing. In the discussion forum, definitely I will be sharing some of the reference material with all of you. So please go through all those reading materials. Thank you, Prabha, for your comment. So if you have any question, you can let me know. Did you find any part of the course which needs some more information? I just ask all of you, Prabha, Animesh, and others who are there online. I just ask that if you find any particular section or lecture where few more information could be there. I find Hemant. Good afternoon, Hemant, to this session. You have given a question like, please explain non-tenable land concept. Hemant, the meaning of non-tenable is like something which is not feasible. Sometimes you will find that, especially in the large cities like Mumbai, Calcutta, Delhi, and others, the slums or the squatter settlements have come up to very vulnerable locations. For example, river banks, for example, the canal banks, or for example, under the high tension lines, etc., etc. Now, as per the government policy, like Government of India and the other state government, our main focus is to redevelop the housing of the slum on the same location. The reason is, as I explained in my lecture, that if you relocate to other areas, they may not accept it and the project becomes unsuccessful. So taking the lesson from the earlier session or earlier cases, presently Government of India and the government of various state government, they have taken strategy that, okay, let us redevelop it on the same site. But there is a condition that if some already existing slum sites are there on the, for example, flood prone river bank or the very hazardous canal front development, or sometimes you might have found that the slums and squatters are there along both sides of the railway line. So those are very vulnerable and risk prone area. So those are called as a non-tenable areas, and those areas you cannot do on-site redevelopment. So for those kind of redevelopment, you have to find out any adjacent site which is not vulnerable like that, which is under government control, government can do, but definitely that should not be very far, like away from the city. It should be near of that particular location. That's why sometimes we call it as a near site development. I hope Hemant, you got some idea about the non-tenable land concept. But we say non-tenable development. Land is always there, but there are some land which is not developable. There are some land which is developable. So the land which is not developable, if that land attracts the slums, quarters, or the undesired settlements, that time we call it as a non-tenable development, right? So thank you, Hemant. I find, Prabha, you have made another question. What is land pooling policy? This is a very good question in current context. The reason is, Prabha, you might have seen that in various state government and various projects, the governments usually fail due to various reasons. One of the major reason is the land, because acquiring land from the private property and acquiring land from the non-government property is always a difficult task, and it is a very long time taking task, and it is a hazard for the government. Hazard from many respects. One is it takes a long time. Government cannot afford that much time. It takes sometimes 10 years, 11 years. Sometimes it invites undesired consequences like political conflict, social conflict, and the loss of image and so on. For that reason, government has been trying to explore various other options or the solution by which they can pool the land for the creation of the large infrastructure, large housing projects, but without acquiring the land fully from the people. So one of the option of this of other options other than land acquisition is the land pooling. In this land pooling policy, the main objective is to take the land temporarily, not permanently. It is not acquiring the land. Take the land which is available even in the private sector temporarily, and then develop the land in such a way so that you can generate some surplus amount of land, even developed land, which you can return back to the original owner. So suppose you are a owner of the land. I take your land temporarily, I develop that land, and I return back some amount of land to you. Now one question may come, that why I am willing to take back some amount, only some amount of land, why not full? The reason is, the land which is taken from the private owners by the government, the land is utilized for creation of the large infrastructure and for large facilities. And the moment you provide the large infrastructure and the large facilities, the value of land will go high, it will rise. So even if you get a parcel or you get a part of your original land, financially you are in a very good position. You are getting a market appreciation, sometimes 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, and so on. So it is a very interesting method where government, the private landowner, and the developer, they enjoy a win-win-win situation. That's why the land pooling policy is very popular, but there are various versions. Classically, in Gujarat and Maharashtra, they have been trying the very much popular land pooling policy, which they call as a town planning scheme, in short TPS. It is basically land readjustment. In this method, they take the land, they change the boundary line of the plot, they reduce the boundaries of the plot, and return back that plot, and make surplus amount of land for the public infrastructures, road, etc., etc. So most of the government now trying to explore those kind of land pooling policy. I hear Prabha, you got some idea about the land pooling policy. I would like to request that you please go through all the government website and find out what is the provision of the land pooling policy in your state and in the other states. Hemant, you have written another question. I just read the question. While preparing housing policy of India for rehabilitation of unauthorized constructions, some restrictions for non-tenable land should be there for controlling future unauthorized, de- just a second, unauthorized construction. Yes, Hemant, I fully agree with you because we cannot agree or we cannot allow any further development, even if the slum is there in the non-tenable area. I request that yes, why not you write to Government of India? Your suggestions is very much valuable for the country. So please feel free and write to Government of India and also the state government. Animesh, I now see you have put up another question. Which is the best successful example for slum redevelopment in India? Animesh, there are a lot of example of slum redevelopment. Now, the benchmark for identifying any best or semi-best or worst redevelopment is not there as of now in India. We don't have that kind of benchmark that we can identify any particular project of slum redevelopment as a best. However, if I get the spirit of your question, if you see the land sharing methods which was tried in Hyderabad, and using the land sharing method, the private land was shared between the private and the public, and they could do the land redevelopment in some of the slums. Then in Calcutta also in 90s, some of the projects in slum development happened. A specific example, like name of the projects, I can give you later on very specifically. But I hope you can get the idea, and you can also browse through the various development authorities and municipal corporations so that you can also get idea. And if you get some example which you would like to share, please share those example with all of us in the discussion forum. That will be very nice, right? Animesh, thank you, Prabha. So far we got questions on the housing policy, then the slum redevelopment, non-tenable land, and also land pooling policy. So please let me know if you have few more questions. As a rejoinder of the question related to land pooling, I just mentioned that Prabha, you can visit also Government of India Ministry of Housing and the Urban Affairs website, and you can find that they have come up with a submission under the Smart City Mission. The submission is all about the urban expansion and the using the land pooling and the town planning scheme. So that is a mandate by the government of India. I hope that in coming future it will cover most of the urban development schemes so that the land is available in a quick time. So you can see that. I would also like to ask you that if you got some very interesting case or very interesting example, why not you share with me also so that we can have a discussion, brief discussion, since our time is very short. But yes, if you have any questions or clarification or query, please let us know. Let me ask one very simple question that would you find any Animesh, Prabha, Hemant, and Vivek, thank you very much for the questions. There was a few questions came through earlier this live session. I just read out when till I find few more questions. So one question I find here is raised by Dilip Patil. The question is right. Is there any QIP STTP at your institute in coming days? I want to participate. I am Professor Dilip Patil from VPK BIET Baramati. I have done BE Civil Engineering and MTech in Town Planning from COEP Pune. If I did PhD in planning from your department, will it be considered in engineering college? I am teaching in engineering college. So this is not a particular question related to this course. What I would like to request Professor Patil is that you can go through the IIT Roorkee website time to time. You can keep contact with our department and me also time to time. If I get or if we organize short-term course related to housing or planning, definitely I will inform. One short-term course through the GAN channel. You know that GAN is the Global Initiative for Academic Network, where we invite the renowned faculty from the international best universities. So one GAN course is organized in the month of April 4th to 8th. Under my supervision, I am inviting Professor Subhajit Samadar from Kyoto University. The topic of the GAN course will be the risk communication, the application in urban planning in relation to resilient cities. The main focus of this course will be how we create resilient cities, and in general and in resilient cities, what is the urban planning strategy, and to be specific, what is the risk communication strategy which is taken care of in a urban planning and management. So that is the basic focus. It is scheduled from 4 to 8th April. You can visit IIT Roorkee website and the Department of Architecture and Planning website. You will get all the information, right? So I hope, Professor Patil, you got some ideas about the QIP and the short-term course. I find few more questions here. Like first question, R. Minhas, you have written that Government of India subsidy for hill towns is equal to other towns. This is not, acha, then you have written it is difficult to construct in hill towns and costs more as compared to hill towns. Minhas, you are absolutely right that the subsidy given under any schemes to the hill areas and the non-hill areas um, should not be equal, because in hill areas the cost of the construction is much higher than the plain areas, so it should be different. So it is your and our joint responsibility to write to the government, to mobilize our government to take the some contextual strategy for the hill towns. Currently in the Department of Architecture and Planning, we are focusing on this subject also. One or two students are working on this. I hope that some methodology, how a government also can find out different packages for different geographical location, those kind of proposal we are also working out, and in future we are going to put up to the Government of India. But in addition, I request Minhas that also, why not you also think about it, read few more cases, and also you propose something to the Government of India. Another question I find that written by Hemant. Hemant, you have written political influence in the housing policy approval stage is very high. Hemant, it is very difficult to comment on this, but I must say that our whole governance is having a particular structure under Constitution of India. So it follows that it follows the government's outlook about the development, and also there are other stakeholders. The government time to time take the concerns of the stakeholders, but so that's the case. Then Hemant, you have written that Which one of the following organization responsible for implementation of scheme at local level? HUDCO, NHB, Housing Board, urban local bodies? The answer is incorrect. Score 0, accepted answer ULB. Hemant, if you have answered ULB, answer must be right, but I'll see. We'll check that if in the assignment there is any discrepancy. Definitely, I'm taking the note of it. The local level housing, I have noted down. I'll will get back. Me or the teaching assistant, Nipun, will get back to you. Right, Hemant? So there is one more question. In this case, in Maharashtra, our ULBs are only a service provider. Yes, case to case, it differs. It differs. India is a very large country. It is not possible to have only single practice for all the states. Nishant Modi, you have given a question. Good afternoon, Nishant. What can be a possible method to control supply of housing for target group? Supply of housing, HIG, is the surplus and unoccupied, not curbed and detected. Nishant, I congratulate you that you have raised a very important question, rather very important subject of the discussion in today's time. Yes, I fully agree with you that there should be some amount of control or some amount of balance between the supply and demand for the HIG and other group. In cities, higher income group people are there who are having more than one units. They sometimes purchase the house for the one, two, three, four various types of units. But on the other hand, the poor people, low income group people, and the economical weaker section, they don't have house. In some of the countries, they have a higher cap of the number of house which you can have in a country. Right now, what most of the city authorities, they follow that within that city authority you cannot have more than one house, but it should be done at the state level, national level, so that a person cannot have, say, for example, more than one or more than two house in a state. So it is the action or the policy level decision to be taken by the government of India and also government of the state governments. So I fully agree with you, Nishant, your observation. I request Nishant that can you make a comparative study of the some of the other countries and also share in the discussion forum? That will be your contribution in the discussion forum. I will be very happy if you can do that. Hemant, you have given another question. We have a special Mahada board for housing implementation. Yes, Mahada is a state level housing and development organization. In other states, it is called housing boards. So they work for whole of the states and all the cities mostly. So yes, this is, thank you for the information that the Mahada board has a implementation focus. Thank you. So Minhas, you have written another comment that these states like Himachal Pradesh have grant share in the format of 90-10. So beneficiaries find it difficult to reach plinth level. Yes, yes, and I particularly have very specific information that in Himachal Pradesh, lot of projects are halted because of this mismatch between the high construction cost and the available supply of the money. I agree. So very soon, government has to work out this particular problem. Hemant, thank you. You have written that you have written to Mahada for that. So this is nice. I am really touched with your action. Please do this kind of actions in future also. Thank you, Hemant. Minhas, you have given another question. As the population that is served in this scheme in northeastern states and other hill towns is exponentially lesser compared to other states, hence higher grant should be given to these states. Minhas, yes, about the grant subsidy I have discussed that it is, but I would like to mention another point. It is not related to only the financial allocation or the grant or the subsidy. The different geographical and the climatic regions in India not only needs a different financial package, it needs a different design package. Suppose in Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana or the earlier JNNU-RM or Amrut, if you have seen that government has given a typical unit plan of 2-bedroom apartment. So do you think, I don't know what is your background, whether you are architect or engineer, do you think that the same unit plan will be applicable or will be accepted for all the population across the India? I don't agree. Personally, it is my personal opinion that that particular unit plan also to be contextualized in the southern India, in the various states, the northeastern states, as we have mentioned, the coastal region, the hill region, the desert region, all have different climatic conditions and geographical conditions. So apart from the financial package, we should also make a design package and a specification accordingly, so that it is suitable for the particular location, particular target group. Any more question? I find very interesting questions and thought-provoking questions are coming up. So please let us know what questions you have still more. Minas, thank you. Thank you also for raising very interesting point, very thought-provoking point. Definitely we'll discuss more on this. And also if you get few more information, please share with all of us. Hemant, thank you. You have written another very interesting question. How we define affordable housing is affordable in context with saleable cost or construction cost in that area. Hemant, if I have rightly understood your question, that you mean to say that affordable housing in the context of saleable cost or construction cost in that area. Now, as I have told in the video lecture that affordable housing is a dynamic concept, even though government of India, they time to time specify the slabs of the affordable housing for economically weaker section, lower income group, middle income group, and the higher income group. But yes, if you see the actual practice, how a common man constructs their own house, they construct their own house incrementally. Like, for example, they purchase a small plot based on their affordable condition. It may be center of the city, it may be little away of the city, wherever he finds his best location, considering all the guiding principle. Then they start constructing house incrementally. They first make one room, then they add another room, they make another room. So the affordability based on the construction cost is also dynamic in nature. Now the very sad part of the whole affordable housing framework in throughout the world, not only in India, is that we try to identify affordable housing into various numerical categories of the income group. In actual practice, it may not happen. Yes, what we are doing to achieve the housing for all through Pradhan Mantri Awas Yojana is a great initiative, and I hope that through that at least a majority of the housing problem will be solved. But over the course of time, for the future population, we have to find out some mechanism of bringing that incrementality in the concept of affordable housing. Otherwise, it may not be possible for government, any government, state, central, local, any government, to take care the affordable housing for all. Okay, so to answer your question precisely, I think that the affordable housing concept should be linked to the construction cost when it is done for the incremental housing, and in current paradigm it is done on the saleable cost. But to have a control on the saleable cost or saleable price, government also can take a very strong presence in controlling the price of the saleable cost, which is given by the developer. That is also possible. I hope, Hemant, you got some idea on this question. Animesh, you have made another very nice question, that on what basis authority government decide to provide land as freehold on or on lease. Now, land is a very limited resource, and it cannot be recreated. It cannot be created from the non-land resources. Like you cannot create the land from sky or from water. So allocating land or allocating the land resource is a very crucial subject matter of discussion. So here, what government tries to do, they try to see the land as a broad policy framework. For example, if you want to give a subsidy or a cross subsidy, usually government gives a leasehold land. The objective of giving leasehold land is to so that to stop the speculation, so that the beneficiaries who are benefited out of that land, they don't sell the land or to the further party, and after some time you can get back the land to the government land bank. And on the other side, when you want to create a very balanced land market, and you means government, you want to enter into the land market, so the land is available for large, medium, small, very small stakeholders and the owners. You have to generate some amount of freehold land in the market, right? So that land will be available, and government, considering that they constantly supply the freehold land in the market. You might have observed that in our lecture we have mentioned that withdrawing the concept of land ceiling act in the urban areas was one of the major reform in urban sector in India. The objective of withdrawing the land ceiling act was to make land available freely to the developer on a controlled basis by the government, so that the land is available, so that large investment is there, jobs are generated, and more housing projects are there. So that's the reason. So it is a broad outlook or broad policy of the government by which they decide the saleable, the leasehold or the freehold land. I hope, Animesh, you got some idea about the freehold and the leasehold land. But I agree one thing, that land is such a very important subject in India that we really need to discuss more on land management, and especially the value capture of the land. In most of the cases, we find that the value created by the government body is taken by the private body, and the profit part or the surplus part is not shared with the government. So over the period of time, we should mainstream the value capture mechanism of the land, especially in the urban area. So on that freehold and leasehold land will take the decision of the freehold and leasehold land will take a very large role on that. Is there any other question? Yes, Hemant, thank you. Thank you for raising a nice question. I hope that in future also you all will be raising such thought-provoking question, which is not only clarify all of our clarification. Also, this will, I hope that in future will give some direction for the country, because you all are going to work for the future. Thank you, Animesh. Thank you also. Prabha, you are back with a question. Let me read the question. You have written that, sir, I know price in urban area is very high, and for providing housing for LIG group, Government of India prefer land in peri-urban. That will decrease cost of apartment, but due to this cost of traveling increase, and LIG group persons can live there. Yes, Prabha, if I have correctly understood your concern, that is, even if you provide free land to the periphery, a poor person cannot travel. You are absolutely right. The current direction of the town planning and the housing development is a compact development, high density development, so that, and a mixed development. Okay, I repeat, it's a compact development, high density development, and mixed development. Now, what is a compact development? Compact development means you have the living place, that is the residential area, the working space, that is the commercial and the business area, the recreational space, which will satisfy both, and the institutional space. The compact development is to bring all this together. That's why the mixed use development is nowadays is very popular, number one. Number two, very high density. Usually in these cities, we follow say 500 population or 600 population as a gross density. Nowadays, we are propagating why not 1000, why not 1500 population gross density. And mixed group means the LIG, EWS, MIG, HIG, very high HIG. So these are together can stay in a very compact area. So this is the current direction of the overall development. The reason is what you have mentioned, that if you send people outside, they may not travel, and that's why the concept of transit oriented development, TOD, is so much popular. The TOD is developed on the basis of the land use and transportation interaction, so that the people don't have to travel a lot from their house to their home, and their travel will be optimized in terms of the time and the fare if they avail a public transportation. In our case, in most of the cities, we have taken the strategies like MRTS, that is metro rail. So along the metro rail, now we are propagating the nodal development of very high density compact area. The station area developments are also being taken up. So basic objective is that what Prabha you have said, that to ensure that that every people they can reach by public transport, number one, and from the public transport junctions or the terminal, they can reach to their house or the office by a last mile connectivity, which is not very costly, which is cheaper. For example, in right now you see in our cities that e-rickshaws, other rickshaws are available. So integrating the MRTS corridor, the TOD corridor with non-motorized transportation and also walkability, that is also a much more focus in current day planning. So that's what we are trying to do nationally, state-wise, and for the cities. Prabha, I think you got some idea, and I fully agree with you. I would like to request that please read few more articles if you have interest on this subject, so you can develop that. Nishant, I find you have written some question. As other countries, when can we include potentials of social housing design also as a new category, diversified category of occupants, technology and sustainable living? Yes. Yes, Nishant, this is a very nice question. Like I tell you that the countries like Netherlands and many European countries, they have taken social housing for very long time as their major agenda for their housing development. In India, even though it is little late, but we have also taken social housing agenda in a mass scale. We have been taking social housing agenda from the beginning after the independence, but on the mass scale. Right now, we are trying to do that. For example, the rental housing policies there, national housing policies there, and it is there. We can improve that mechanism. We can improve that policy. We can do that. If you have some more ideas, you can do that. The second part of the question, what you have mentioned, is that diversified by the category of the occupants, technology, and the sustainable living. Yes, there are examples of functional category of the housing. For example, housing created solely for the IT and ITS staffs. So that those examples are there, but categories of occupants, like we don't discriminate occupants based on the social category. Now our major focus is to have a mixed development, inclusionary housing, so that everybody can live together. That is a better community. That's what we are trying to do. Hemant, I find you are back. Welcome back. So you have written another question. Nowadays in housing policy, we are also thick and amend the comparatively social infrastructure like light shelter, old age home, etc., like welfare centers, kindergarten, school, playground. Yes. Hemant, in the beginning of the course, I have mentioned that the housing is not a building. Housing has several dimensions. It has dimensions of the infrastructure, dimensions of the community, amenities, everything. So what I have written is the example of the dimensions what we discussed. I fully agree with you. Hemant, very good question. TOD is not successful in brownfield development. Hemant, practically saying we need some more time to answer this question. In India, we are trying our level best to bring TOD, but only constant. What I find, it's my own personal opinion, that we must do TOD in our country in our way. We should not do the TOD in the way the Western countries or the European countries they have done. And I am telling you that TOD is not a concept which we have borrowed from the other countries. There are classical examples of suburban rail network in Calcutta, Mumbai, and other cities where you have seen that very dense development along the major corridor. If you see the city of Mumbai, it is developed on a north-south rail corridor, which is a mass transit corridor, and based on the corridor, a large high-density development settlements have come up, and that is a classical example of TOD. So TOD is not a very new concept. Right now, we are trying to integrate TOD concept with the metro rail, because metro rail we are doing for the first time for most of the cities. But I think that yes, it will take time to answer fully of your question. Animesh, you have written another question. Nishan, the best example that I know is Singapore. In India, the feature is not a part of basic thought process, I suppose, but I believe it is achievable in coming decade. So it's a very nice suggestion or addition. We have given a additional information to Nishant. Let me identify which question. Okay. In relation to the Nishant question on the housing category, you have mentioned that. Okay. Thank you, Animesh. Thank you very much for the addition. Prabha, you have written that TOD or NMT mode successful in Delhi, but in case of Greater Noida, it is not successful. Yes. Prabha, for NMT, in India, we are yet to make a very strong norms and codes for NMT, especially how the NMTs are integrated in the TOD nodes and TOD terminals. That is not fully worked out. How the NMTs are integrated in the junctions, it is also not fully worked out. So it will take some more time for the researchers, the controlling authorities or the government to bring this in the practice. So yes, thank you for the information that in Greater Noida that you have made, you have written that in Delhi it is successful, but Greater Noida it is not successful. One reason for the Greater Noida could be that Greater Noida will take few more time to bring the critical population. I don't know. I'll look into it further, and if I get few more information, I'll share with you. Right, Prabha? So thank you very much. And okay, and they provide housing for LIG in Greater Noida, and result is they are still vacant. Yes, absolutely, Prabha. I answered few times back that in India we have to bring some kind of strategy and policy so that we can have some cap for the housing for the higher income group. That is what is important. And for the LIG, yes, maybe they are not LIG, maybe they are HIG, but they have manipulated the paper and they have taken the houses meant for the LIG. I don't know. We have to look into it for the Getter case study. Okay, Hemant, thank you for your agreement. Hemant, why not you make a short case study of the TOD in Mumbai, mentioning the basic problems faced by the common people, and why not you talk with some of the stakeholders, your architects, engineer friends, and some of the stakeholders, and why not you make a small write-up of 1-2 page on the basic problem and share with us. Okay, Hemant, that will be, why I am telling you, because in practical practice, giving a comment is one thing, but people will really listen to us if they get a very specific and legitimate point where we have evidence and we have some specific information, right? So that will be nice, Hemant, if you can add for this. Any more question? We are in the We have almost taken 1 hour of this live session. So if you have question, please let us know very quickly so that we can complete within time. Till that time, I once again thank you, Hemant, Prabha, then Animesh and Minhas and Nishant and all of you who has mentioned very nice questions. I hope that these questions helped all of us. In fact, I also got some clue that how these questions will help us. In the discussion forum, we'll try to bring more light on this so that we can have more information. So thank you very much, all of you. And all the best for the examination to all of you. Thank you.